Hi, my name is Derek Delfino, and this is my feminist theory project for my KINE 323 Sports and Gender class. Let's begin with a little background on liberal feminism. So, liberal feminists believe that women have the same inalienable rights as men, so they fight for equal opportunity in areas like government and economy through legislation change like Title IX. Like all other feminist theories, liberal feminists believe there is unequal rights and opportunity between sexes, and they also agree with other feminists that current gender regime has been mostly men in power positions in organizations like government and sports institutions, and that is the main reason for inequality. Compared to other feminist theory, liberal feminist theory displays the most ideological differences. Liberal feminists focus on individual freedom and power gain rather than social structural change, which other feminists believe is the root of all inequality. In addition, liberal feminists are relatively uncritical of current social structure and are criticized for accepting patriarchy in society. An actual example of liberal feminism would be Billie Jean King, who fought for equal compensation and rights for women in professional tennis. Although she was effective in achieving equality for herself, she can be seen as a female athlete who continued the empowerment discourse in sports that focused on self-empowerment through increasing self-esteem rather than structure or cultural change.
Radical feminists believe that it is impossible for gender equality in the current patriarchal system, and there needs to be a major ideological shift from orthodox gender ideology. They call for the destruction of patriarchy and to stop the perpetuation of hegemonic masculinity and argue that heterosexuality is a major component of male dominance. Like parts of socialist and black feminist theory, radical feminism focuses on the differences in sexes. Like socialists and black feminists, radical feminists also focus on hegemonic masculinity and call for a major fundamental structural change that has encouraged patriarchy and male dominance over women for thousands of years. While liberal feminists call for equal opportunity in current society, radical feminists call for complete change that will bring about gender equity, not equal opportunity. Radical feminists also equate femininity to heterosexuality and argue that this idea of femininity is the cause of homophobia. Lastly, radical feminists believe that the current patriarchal social structure produces and encourages violence against women. A sport example of radical feminist theory would be the presence of the reformed apologetic in sports. Although it is now acceptable for female athletes to be tough and muscular, they still must communicate their femininity and heterosexuality through clothing, makeup, and accessories. Another sport example would be hegemonic masculinity in youth sports and the development of the man box by young boys in our youth sports. Social feminist theory argues that the current patriarchal society is a product of both gender and social class relations, and that capitalism has aided in the creation of the patriarchal society by creating a gender-based public life, domestic life. They also focus on the difference among women. Like radical feminism, social feminism believes that male dominance is the source of oppression for women, and similar to black and radical feminists, social feminist theory believe that change can come about by studying the effect of hegemonic masculinity in our youth. Socialist feminist theory argues that women's oppression can be somewhat attributed to divisions of labor, and socialism must be established to gain equality for women, but it's not sufficient. They are criticized for giving primacy to class and economics over gender-based structural relations. And lastly, social feminists allow men to study and develop theories regarding feminism in hopes to gain a better understanding of masculinity. A sport example of socialist feminist theory would be the division of labor in youth sports, like soccer and football. Moms and other women usually service the team by providing refreshments and support, while fathers and other men are the coaches and occupy the leading positions. This division of labor then extends to sports organizations and other institutions. Black feminist theory argues that women's oppression is not only a product of gender and class, but is largely influenced by race and ethnicity that has been marginalized and ignored in other feminist theories. Black feminist theory also argues against the ethnocentricity of white feminism and challenges many of the other feminist theories. Black feminism agrees with radical and social feminists that women oppression is a function of patriarchy in society. Black feminist theory also agrees with social feminists that social class and the division of labor also influences on the oppression of women vastly. Black feminist theory argues that race and ethnicity are a major component of female oppression, and that black and other ethnic women have a more difficult time fighting the oppression of women. They also address not only black women and girls, but females from all different racial and ethnic backgrounds, and attempts to shift the focus off white feminism. A sport example of black feminist theory would be that they argue the concept of color blindness in the media, and that discourses of women in sport is still skewed towards the white female athletes. Another example that black feminists also argue that black male athletes are covered extensively in sports, but this is not a black cultural resistance, but a black male racism resistance. Critical feminist theory is a broad overall criticism of the structure of our society that represents the convergence of all feminist theories in sports. Critical feminist theory focuses on the similarities of all the feminist theories without minimizing each theory's unique positions, but still calling for athletic reform and structural changes. Critical feminist theory is widely different due to its modern view of patriarchy as a fluid relationship of men and women, and dives into various forms of oppression like race, gender, and class, and how male domination interacts with other forms of social domination. Critical feminist theory also takes a deeper look at gender roles in society and hopes to achieve a more dynamic conceptualization of gender. Critical feminist theory takes a broader stance on the issues in sport, and doesn't just closely follow male and female experiences in athletic settings. Critical feminist theory recognizes that male masculinity dominates sports, but the study of relations between class, gender, and race in sport can emphasize progress, change, and power.